Dark Satellite Media.
So yeah, all right, yeah. So no wedding for you. Band breaks up.
Well, yeah, no wedding for me, but for everyone else.
Which is great. I mean, I hate weddings, so.
Yeah, I have so many of them for myself that I feel obligated I should go to other people's just because. But yeah, like around that time, like it was like the end of 2005, which is I think was the last show in December in Pennsylvania. Going into 2006, that's when I decided I was going to move into owning a business. So that's when I spoke with my brother Mike, and I said, I think I have enough money to start a comic book store. And he was like, absolutely. And I was like, I'll cut you in on it if you help me run it, and I'll front all the money. And because I was barely doing anything with the band, so I bought and opened Brooklyn Monster Factory in Park Slope. It opened in April of 2006. And
was it just strictly comics?
Yeah, it was horror movies and toys, and we had some music stuff in there. It was comic books, toys, and a lot of T-shirts. Like comic book tees were really getting trendy at that point. Like this is before the big movie crush from Marvel, so that would be coming up soon with Iron Man. Okay. But that's like, I loved comics. I was making a good living. My marriage was kind of weird. It was like kind of in a weird place because my
this
wife,
was number two.
Yes, my second wife, and my wife had sort of ingratiated herself into my band. Like, she was someone who was like a fan of my band, and she was friends
more than you,
way more than me. And like, she, I even though I had a really good like regular career, and we lived in a really great apartment, and we had a really good life, and I could tell like she was disappointed. I feel like she was disappointed because she thought she was like marrying this dude from a cool band, and then she befriends everybody's wives and girlfriends in the band, and it was just an awkward thing. So I knew, like, as my marriage was kind of going over the edge there, like by the summer of that year, like that was going to be the nail in the coffin for the band for real, because the band wasn't actually broken up.
And like being in a band is like, for people like you and myself that understand, that's a big identity piece, like
when it's gone.
Yeah, when it's yeah. I mean, I started late. I didn't really start playing in bands till I was like 27, so that's weird, right?
Oh, so you almost got out. That was awesome. You should have kept it that way.
Like I started.
You're right though.
I started late. Yeah, but it's like that identity where you just kind of, it's like, holy shit, like what do I do now?
Well, that's why I had the store, and I really liked the store. Like the store sort of became like my. A lot of guys at that age like get a red sports car or a mistress or like a dog or whatever. And it was just like, I'm going to open this store. And I had no business opening this store because like I said, I had a really good job, and my wife and I were going on these like elaborate vacations, and we're hanging out with Vince Clarke and his wife and doing cool stuff. And even though the band was kind of dead in the water, my life was awesome, but I think it was almost like another ego move. It was like, well, I'm going to open this business, and I'm going to do that instead. And, and I'll show you, like, to who, I don't know who I'm talking to.
Did you give it any thought? Like, cause I don't know much about like that world, but I feel like, like maybe, like back in the day, that's what we all wanted to do. We wanted to open up a record store or a comic book store, or a baseball card shop. But like all these things like have this expiration date, it feels like. Are comics like that or not so much?
Well, now is a tricky time because of COVID and the push to online books. But in 2006, the movie boom was happening, and it was definitely trickling down into books.
Okay.
So you were about to have, Marvel was literally about to carry Hollywood up until like today, like this was coming.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big anticipations. And there was some cool things happening in books. Walking Dead, the comic, had just started, which was a beast. The Boys, the comic, had just started, which was a beast.
I didn't know it was that long ago.
Oh, yeah. That's 2006. So so that and the conventions were starting again, and they went from like one day of a third of the Javits to 4 full days, and the entire Javits oversold. And so yeah, comics were becoming a big deal, and the T-shirts were getting very trendy. Like you started to see like these Silver Surfer logo on a T-shirt, and guys in bands were wearing them. And I also had the connection to the bands. So the clothing company Pitchfork, where we were friends with from the hardcore scene, they helped us out with getting we had their clothes in there. We had other bands' clothes in there. And then it became like a hangout spot. Like I had Luke Kohler was always in the store because his studio was near there, and he was friends with my brother. And I had Purcell in there from Bold and Youth of Today. Somebody else from GB was in there. Walter Schreifels came in there. I had Caputo come in there. It was a hangout spot.
Oh, Caputo went in there too?
Oh yeah, he went in there. Yeah, we went in there to try to sell his CDs, and then he said I gave him a fake phone number, and I was like, Keith, I would never give you a fake phone number. Like, what are you talking about? He was just so high, he didn't understand what he was talking about. But like Brooklyn Monster Factory became like a place to hang out in. Like,
oh, that's so cool.
And so you literally had people from the hardcore scene just coming to hang out all day and watching like Japanese horror movies. And like we would play their music, and then we started, putting like MP, maximum penalty for MP. I'm saying MP like people know, maximum penalty and Sick of It All stuff in the store. And we got a lot of help out too, like from Black and Blue. Black and Blue, we're like the only like store that wasn't like in the city that was allowed to sell tickets for the Black and Blue Bowl. So the connection to the hardcore scene specifically changed everything for that store, like in every way, shape, and form. Like it was 1000%. It became like a place. If you were a band, we knew you were going to come and hang out for the day. I think we're actually in one of the Black and Blue videos for the Black and Blue Bowl.
Okay.
One of those years. Some of the guys from Marauder and my brother, they go to the store and they hang out in the store, and it's like actually really cool. So we got so much love. I'll never forget that. Like that was just tremendous. The love I got from that. So like when the guys in the band, when I was like, yeah, I'm getting divorced, like literally in the same day I told the guys in the band I was getting divorced, they quit the band the same day. Like half the band, I was like, I'm getting divorced. Like, yeah, we don't want to do the band anymore. I'm like, oh, what a coincidence.
God, that's weird, huh?
Yeah, half the band was like, nope, we're quitting. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they ended up staying friends with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
Very strange. So so that took up a lot of my life at that point. So that was like 2006. And my brother was playing a ton, and Human were playing all the time. So we would have passes for their shows and flyers and stuff like that. It was a great time. It was a great time. Like from 2006 to 2010.
That's when that's how long it went?
Yeah, like 2011, like we sold the business, and my brother was really pissed that I was selling it. But I was an analyst at Lehman Brothers. A lot of people know this, but I was that was my job. That was my real job. And then the global bankruptcy happens, and Lehman is like the catalyst of this global recession. And I had a staff of people. I would hire people I knew from like the hardcore scene or like people from the music scene to work part-time. You know what I mean? Because I knew I could trust these people, and it didn't always work out that great, quite frankly, but
sure,
I felt comfortable with that, you know, and like if you, that, you know, I helped a lot of people out. Like I have 1000% did. And cause I wasn't doing it for the money. Like I had a real job, and that real job kept that store open when the recession hit for the last couple of years. That was all me just paying money.
That was like the
to
2008.
keep my clubhouse open. Yeah, well, that was like a bomb went off.
Well, yeah, because like I remember the movie The Big Short, because I missed all that because I wasn't in that world. But you know, when you watch that movie, you're just like, oh shit, The Big Short. Like this is what was going on.
I got PTSD from seeing that movie theater. Like my wife had to like calm me down. Like I actually had a panic attack because they have a scene in there where it's supposed to be Lehman's floor, which by the way is all bullshit. That didn't look anything like Lehman. But the IDs that they used were the real. They looked just like the real IDs. I still have my Lehman ID that I got from 2000, and it was green and very specific. And they're using it to get in and out. And I'm like, oh my god, that's the real ID. Like that's what the ID looked like. Like holy shit. So it was like a tough thing to swallow, like getting rid of the store. But during the end of that time period, or in the middle of that time period, Sick of It All put out a big record, and Maximum Penalty put out a big record. And these are two people I'm hanging out with a lot in my real life. So Joe Affey asked me, hey, you know, we're going to play a bunch of festivals. You want to come? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, so I got to go with him while they were playing some pretty big high profile shows like Black and Blue Bowl and This Is Hardcore. And then Sick of It All plays this huge show at the Gramercy with MP for their record release. So I got to go do that. I got to go hang out. But I was just hanging out. Like I was like, I guess you could say I was roadieing, but I really didn't do much. I just kind of hung out with Joe, helped him pack up
Yeah,
his shit.
I know the roadie. Like usually, like when
You know the gig, yeah.
when
Well,
you
there were certain times I did stuff.
no, but yeah, like when your like friend plays like the Paramount, and he's like, "Oh, all right," he's like, "You're my guitar tech for the day," which means nothing.
Yeah, I could never be a tech, but like I did merch for them at like one of those big United Blood Fest in Virginia. That was a crazy show. I did do the merch, but that was as close as I was getting to music at that point because I was selling the store or like kind of fading myself out of the store. My ex-girlfriend was running the business, and I, shut down. I think did a big reunion show in Pennsylvania. I forget what they called that show, but it's the Tsunami Fest. I think it was the first year of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that. That was like the Blood for Blood reunion, all that stuff. So I was like popping up, and I was also getting very healthy. Like once I sold the store and like I got past the bankruptcy stuff with Lehman Brothers, I got up to almost 300 pounds. So I was always like around 220. I'm like 6'1", not even 6'1".
Okay, yeah. So
yeah, I'm like 6.5. But like, I went from 220 to 279 during that time period, and I was like a 42-inch waist, smoking like packs of cigarettes a day, drunk constantly, like constantly. I mean, and my version of drunk is like I'm out till 6 a.m. at a 7-Eleven, after like 30 Guinnesses and like 2 packs of cigarettes, and
so
then I'm getting
you were definitely putting them in then.
I was in bad shape. It was bad. And like, there were very few people in my life that would kind of call me out on it because I had a great job. I had a great apartment. I had a good girlfriend. Like everything else was fine. But then I just started to feel genuinely very unhealthy. And I knew I had to make some changes. So I stopped eating like the way I was eating. And then it immediately took a big impact on my health. And then I was dropping all this weight, and I ended the relationship I was in. I was living with somebody for a while, and I was like, I'm just going to go out and have a good time as a not fat guy who doesn't, have work 2 jobs anymore. I'm going to go on these, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm just going to be that guy.
I know exactly. Yeah. Once you get back in shape for sure, and you're
Oh
single.
yeah. And I just turned, I think it was 40, between 40 and 41.
Yeah.
And, I went down to about 177 pounds.
Wow.
And but I was still smoking. But but my like I had to throw out my socks and my underwear. Like I had to throw my coats. I gave baskets of clothes away to Goodwill because I couldn't wear anything. I couldn't wear like hats that I used to wear. That's how much weight I lost. And I was in some crazy relationships. Yeah. Oh, it was crazy. But I was like, but the thing is, I had a good job. I had a good apartment. I was getting up at 5 a.m. working, and then I would come home and I would run Prospect Park. You know what I mean? Or at least like do something active and cut my food down. And then I would like meet girls and like hang out with much younger girls and go hang out. And where do you live? Baltimore? Okay, I can go there. Where do you live? Detroit? Not a problem. Like, I was on a vaginal tour.
Yeah, for sure.
That was my Northeast vaginal tour.
Every day is like Sunday for you, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it was great though, but I was awesome. But I remember a bunch of women at my job were like, we think it's time for you to find someone your own age and calm down. Like you lost weight, you seem like you're happy, you don't have the store, you're not in bands. And I was like, well, how do you do that? Like, I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question.
Yeah. I was like, I ended up in a long-term relationship with somebody that I met. And in that time period, Joe Affey calls me up. He's like, do you want to do Lament? And I was like, yeah. I was like, sure. And he's like, we're not going to do anything crazy. We're just going to play like some shows. And, I don't know if we're going to record or write, but if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I was like, yeah, I have no crazy expectations here, like none. And then we started doing that in like 2012, 2013. And it was a lot of fun. It was me, him, and 2 people that I never played with before. We had got the original guys from the 7-inch together there for a bit and played some shows with them. And it was fun. It was like it was never meant to be like we're going to go to
Yeah,
Europe,
no, for
you know?
sure. Like it's just like it's almost like what I do. Like
Yeah.
we basically, I mean, not so much now, but in the normal, last year days, like, play a couple of local shows and, make a record, stuff like that. No, just kind of like it's like we practice more than we do anything, It's just fun to make
Yes, and
songs.
that's yeah. I know the vibe. We got to do some fun stuff. It wasn't like I think we would have liked to have done more. I don't. I think maybe there was some expectations of you should get on this big show, and I'm like, and no one's going to ask us to play those shows. Like, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
we're not that kind of band. But Joe always has MP sort of in his periphery. So I knew that MP breaks up for like a year, but they always get offers to go play big shows, and I knew that was coming too. So that wasn't an issue for me because that's the way it's been my whole adult life. Is that we'll do this for a bit, and then you'll go and play these big shows with MP. And Joe also goes to play with Harley. I don't know if he's in he plays with Harley.
Oh, I didn't know.
In the Cro-Mags.
Oh, so
Yeah,
so like with Rocky George.
Yeah. Yeah,
Holy
Joe.
fucking.
Yeah, Joe goes to Europe with Harley. He's like one of Harley's short list of people. He doesn't do everything with Harley, but he didn't do the garden. He didn't do that the Meadowlands
the
or whatever.
Misfits.
But yeah, he didn't do that. But he went to Europe with Harley. Like that's just something he's always done. He'll work with like Billy Milano, and Billy would do MOD. Joe would be like the guy he would call to maybe do a tour or something.
Okay.
And so he's always doing that. And I actually, to be honest with you, I had more fun hanging out at those shows than I did really playing again, because there's just no pressure when you're like when MP's playing with Sick of It All at the Gramercy,
Just
and
hanging.
you're just like we're just getting sandwiches and like sitting in air conditioning, like in the back.
Yeah.
It's just like it's amazing. It's like, wow, this is great. I have no responsibilities.
Yeah.
I would get some of these shows. I would just get so fucked up though. It's just like, oh my god, I would be destroyed by like 8 o'clock at night.
Or also like a singer. I don't know if you were this way, but like like I felt like I couldn't scream. Like if we were playing last, I can't like scream over the music because whenever I do, like by the time we play at like midnight at some fucking dive, it's like I could barely speak, let alone sing, because like I don't know. I have such a weak voice.
Well, you have a very high voice, so for you to get in your range, like you start out right, like bah, bah, bah,
Yeah.
like that. You're right there in the beginning. Like you're not building to that. Like
No.
you're right up in there, like almost like a high C
I'm a
kind of
tenor.
thing. Yeah, and so I noticed that about you too. It was much worse when I was in synthetic because you could still smoke in places.
Oh my god.
And we all smoked.
Yeah.
So like if I was on the road with them for 3 or 4 days, 4 of the 5 guys are perpetual cigarette smokers.
Yeah.
And by the time I get to that first show, I'm like,
Yeah, when you're watching like those old TV shows or movies, like everyone is just smoking everywhere. Like everywhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't even matter where.
It seems like the smaller the club, the more the people smoked. It was just the strangest thing. Like I even remember that when we were out west, and I was just like, the air is so thick, and the humidity, and I was dying.
But
I couldn't find like a hot cup of tea anywhere. Like I was just like, because it's 113 degrees. It's summertime in Arizona. When am I getting hot tea?
But even like on a plane back in the day, like it's like, oh, a smoking section, non-smoking section. You're like, like it just didn't even make sense. But it was like, whatever. We'll just throw the maybe the smoke won't make it over there.
Yeah, I often wonder like how much, like my voice is not in the best shape and my hearing is way worse. But I often wonder like had I never did that, and if I would have lost that weight at 30 and quit smoking, I quit at 41. If I quit at 31, what kind of an impact, like how differently would the band have been perceived if I was 170 pounds in great shape and living very well and not drunk and high like all the time and fat and like an obnoxious person, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interest. Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
It's something I think about, man. I mean, I really do, because it's the combination of how I looked and also how I acted. It was just like
I think
all of it was bad.
I think the acting is definitely more of like that's like the more of the detriment for sure, because if you're off-putting when people meet you, it's definitely this thing is how it is. Talent is one thing, but man, when you're nice to people and people want to help you, they're just like that's such a big part of it, man. It's like what? It's like I don't really like their music, but they're super cool. Let's throw them on the show.
Yeah, that I think that is a real thing. I definitely,
Oh,
because
it's
I
real.
think people that liked me, I benefited from people that I was really nice to. You know what I mean? And people benefited, that were nice to me sometimes.
Yeah.
I at one point I was booking most of the shows. So I could get you to play with us at Continental or Brownies, you know what I mean? Or Cine or whatever the hell was the club at the time. Like I can get like a Friday night from Continental. Like I could book the whole show. And in the beginning, they were all winners. Like, but as soon as you hit that one stinker, it's over. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's at that time anyway, because the clubs were competitive. So it was like, oh, Synthetic 16 is going to headline, on the 27th. How you guys are going to book all the bands? Yes. Okay. You can book all the bands.
Always. That's what we do. We had a long run over at Matchless in Brooklyn. Shout out to Artie. And like we would come in from Long Island, and we'd play there maybe like once a month, but I would have to book the bands because it's like I knew who would fit there and who would be the best. And that was just fun, man. It was a great run. I actually saw some of the footage of you guys playing the Continental. There's some stuff up on YouTube. You guys did,
is that right?
Yeah, you guys did. That's when I saw the Far cover because you guys did Mother Mary.
Oh, yeah. That Water and Solutions is funny. My brother Kevin, we're picking him up to drive him to Castle Heights, and he used to get tons of free stuff in the mail. And he was like, got the CD, don't like it. The guy sounds just like you. And I go, what? He goes, I don't really like it that much, but I have to say, this guy sings just like you.
Yeah.
And we put it on in the car, and then Pete and Adam are like, this guy does sing like you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, if I was good, and
especially that record. That record's amazing.
Yeah, it's a beast. To me, it's like The Moon Is Down. I don't know if you're a Moon Is Down guy, but like those two records symbolize a lot of things I wanted to hit in my musical career.
No, I don't know. Moon Is Down. Who's? Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the Chris Carrabba right
Yep.
before he goes into the solo.
Yeah.
Seminal record, dude. I mean, it's just a brilliant. You would be all over this in 2 seconds.
I know it.
You'd be like, you have to know because it's in the stratosphere of the kind of stuff you and I play. You know what I mean? It's one of those must-have records. The way people feel about like Glassjaw, which not really my band. It's not something I like that much, but I don't dislike it.
Sure.
But Water and Solutions, I will never forget Kevin in the car, sitting in the front seat with Pete, going, "I don't like it, but you'll probably like it." And then Pete was like, "This is great." And of all the songs to cover, I wanted to cover The System or Barry White.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, Mother Mary. And I'm like, oh, it's just because it's just fun. It's just fun to play. And I was like, and we played that song everywhere, like all over the fucking country. Like it seemed like, and I was constantly playing it. Like it was always in our rotation. And most people didn't know who it was, so they just presumed it was our song.
I mean, I get it, yeah, for sure. I mean, and that was like their kind of like semi-popular song off that record, but I think hearing from what I know of your voice now, I think Barry White would have been the one.
Oh my God, I wanted to open with that every show. I was like, can't we just open with Barry White? Like we would do it in the studio, and they were like, no, it's not our song. I was like, can we just open the show with Barry White? Let's just I love when bands do that. I don't know about you, but the one time I saw Social Distortion was when they were like super hot. It was like White Light, White Heat, White Trash.
Okay, 96.
And they did a show at Roseland with Degeneration and H2O. And it was an awesome show, just fucking amazing show. And they opened with Under My Thumb.
Yes.
And I'm just
yeah.
That, and they did that a lot, I heard. Like they opened Under My Thumb a lot.
Yep.
I'm like, they have 5-7 albums at that point. I'm like, and they're opening with Under My Thumb.
Yeah, and they do a great cover of it too, man. It's
awesome.
It's theirs. It's like their.
Oh yeah.
It's just he plays it, and he's like Mike Ness is such a big Stones fan, so for him to cover that, it's just like I don't know. It's sometimes people cover songs and it sounds exactly like the band, which is fine, but they made it a Social Distortion song, so it makes sense. And I've probably seen them do it, because I feel like they've had the same set list forever. Every time I see them.
Oh, do they really? I haven't seen them. I only saw them once.
Oh, really? Yeah. Anytime I've seen them, they're one of those bands that like has like they don't stray from like the popular songs, know. But good stuff.
When I saw me and my brother went and saw Morrissey a couple years ago, Morrissey opened with an Elvis B-side.
Wow.
from like King Creole or something. And then this is Morrissey now opening with an obscure Elvis song.
He could do whatever though. He's got such
But
a
that's what I'm saying. He can get, yeah, he could have opened with like, Oh Mickey, from the cheerleader song, and it would have been fine.
yeah. He just has that type of fan base. Doesn't even matter. But moving forward to the rest of your life, I know that later in life, podcasting became a thing, and I don't know much about wrestling. But when we started talking, you were on a show called Wrestling Soup, and I don't know, just build me a bridge to that show.
So my brother Kevin Castle from Castle Heights is one of the first wrestling podcasters. Like he was written up in Rolling Stone. He was on a UFC show talking about CM Punk. They played him talking about CM Punk on the show, because he was doing wrestling hotlines, and wrestling was always like, if you're like a hardcore guy or a comic guy, wrestling's in there somewhere. Like it seemed
like, I mean, maybe then again, I'm not a hardcore guy, but like growing up, like ECW was big out here, and I feel like, right? It was like, just that connection.
Yeah, the hardcore scene in ECW couldn't have been more perfectly intertwined.
Yep.
And you have a guy like Kevin Gill, who owned a record label in the hardcore scene, who's now a huge figure in pro wrestling, like enormous podcasting, and he does commentary for a big company called GCW. So these things were always there. And CM Punk, I mean, Jesus Christ, CM Punk was a hardcore guy from Chicago. He was at the Black and Blue Bowl on stage when he was the WWE champ. He was like just standing on the side of the stage watching Gorilla Biscuits. And he was just like,
awesome.
I mean, it's just so strange, So Kevin always had this podcast called the Don Tony Kevin Castle Show. And it was like one of the first shows to get like 1 million downloads in wrestling. And for people that don't know, like wrestling, it might not be as popular in TV or in popular culture. It is super popular on social media. Like it's tremendous in social media. That's why The Rock has like 200 million Instagram followers or something like that.
The Rock thing is fucking bizarre, because like when you think of, growing up, we saw like No Holds Barred. We saw They Live with Piper. All these wrestlers that tried to like make that transition, and it just like, I kind of feel like it fell flat. And then The Rock comes along, and he's like the biggest star on the planet.
Yeah, he is the biggest star in the world. I mean, I don't know that you could say there's a bigger star. He's probably the biggest star. And like, CM Punk's not like a star, but he talked his way into UFC without even being a fighter. That shows you the cachet.
Which killed me, but God.
Yeah, it was sad. I didn't like watching it. I felt as a guy from the hardcore scene and a comic book guy, I'm just like, I have no joy in watching that. Like that made me feel really sad.
Yeah.
But also like Jericho. Look at Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, was a pro wrestler whose dad was a hockey player, and like he was a metalhead who had a metal band. And
great podcast too.
Yeah, he's a great podcast. He's also like, his band sucks ass, but he's, from a personality standpoint, he's a character. That's the thing. Wrestling has you have to
great. Now I can't get him on the show, John. Thanks.
I'm sorry. He knows. Well, we've fought before. We've had arguments in the past.
Okay.
I said he looked like Nathan from South Park, and it almost went viral. Like the fat kid from South Park, who has the guy Mimsy, who has his sidekick. He looks like Jericho. That's what Jericho looks like now. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like these, the spillover was always kind of there. It's entertainment, it's acting, it's comedy, it's athletic, it's hardcore, whatever. So Kevin has this huge show, and the real story behind this is kind of really odd. But so our dad dies in 2014, and it's just awful, obviously. And I move upstate like 2 weeks later. And I've never come back. Like I never moved back. I'm still up here. And my brother Kevin was like, "Hey, if you haven't listened to my podcast in a while," which I never listened to it. But I lied and said I used to listen to it, but I never did. He goes, "There's so many people saying all these, like, we did like this tribute to like our dad on there." And I was like, "Oh, wow. That's weird."
Oh, really? That's nice.
And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of strange." So, because my dad died, and then their show was on a Monday. So the co-host, my brother went on. My dad died, like I think on like a Tuesday, and then my brother went on this Sunday. So I'm watching the show, and then I'm listening to it, and it has a chat, but I'm not in the chat. And then I go on YouTube, and I'm listening to older things, and I'm seeing a lot of. This is my first experience with this, mind you. So bear with me here. But this is 2014. But I'm seeing like a lot of negative stuff, like a lot, like fuck this guy, fuck you, you suck. But I'm like, it's not a lot of it, but just by seeing, like it's gonna sound a little strange, but like I didn't know like that was a thing, like just shit posting, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
anonymous shit posting. I'm not in band. I'm on the internet just like
Listen, when you first see it, you're like, whoa, you're like,
it was shocking.
why would you
Like,
waste your time?
yeah, and I actually said something to my older brother, and I was like, God, all these people hate Kevin. Now, mind you, hate Kevin. Meanwhile, Kevin's getting like 50,000 downloads a week. So obviously nobody hates Kevin. But in my mind, that was the thing that kind of put me at pause. So then I start listening to the show on the regular, and he has other guys on the show. They're on a network essentially, and the other show's called Wrestling Soup. And one of the guys on the Soup was on Kevin's show, and he was really funny. So I was like, let me download that show. And I'm not even really watching wrestling. I'm just kind of watching it sporadically when I have time. And their show just killed me. Like, my brother's show was great and it was very successful, but there was something about their show because it reminded me of like the Howard Stern show or like Cumtown. I'm familiar with Cumtown, but like it reminded me of like an irreverent. It wasn't really about wrestling to me. They made it like wrestling was like in the background.
Yeah.
So after listening to it for months and months and months and months into 2015, I send the guy an email. I go, hey, I'm Kevin Castle's brother. I love the show. I would love to. They had a Sunday version of the show called the Shitbox where they would take calls. So he gets back to me right away. He's like, hey, do you want to come on the Shitbox? And I was like, holy shit. Like, I've never even been up. Like, what do you do? How does this work? Like, what is
Were you not listening to podcasts at that time?
No, I only listened to Kevin on like YouTube.
Gotcha.
Or like I listened to it on his, like I didn't, I would go to the webpage and listen to it.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the app. So I would go to the webpage and listen to it off the webpage. So this is 2015. And I do the Shitbox by telephone. And I was like, this was funny. And I was telling funny stories about like when me and Kevin would go as a kid. So they asked me to come back on. I go back on in like a month. And then a month later, they asked me to go. So it's like this slow buildup to come on. And then they asked me to come on the main show. And at this point, they were like, yeah, but you got to go through Skype. Nobody on the phone. If you're going to go on the main show, you got to be like on the Skype call. So I was like, okay, yeah, great. And I'll never forget, their shows are on Thursdays. They're at 9:30 at the time. And they were live in a chat. And right off the bat, I'm in the chat and I'm like, who the fuck is this asshole? This guy sucks. He's Kevin's brother. Fuck him. Fuck his brother. Fuck their family. Yeah. And I was just like, da, 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 da. But now I have a little bit more like, I've seen it, so it's not a big deal. And then as time goes on, they were like, hey, do you want to be a regular on the show? And I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing to me. Like, this sounds great. And the show was always about the two co-hosts, but they started incorporating me as a third person. And then I would fill in when one of them couldn't make it, or if Kevin, if he couldn't do his show, Kevin would come on with me. And it became like this fun thing. And I was never looking at the numbers. It didn't really matter to me, like how many people were listening to it.
Well, what was the whole gist of the show then? Like you guys like would review whatever happened?
Yeah, it was like whatever happened in wrestling that week. And then a lot of it was like internet stuff. And a lot of it was like shit talking. Like, like wrestlers get in trouble a lot. You know what I mean? So it's like so-and-so got arrested, that sort of thing. And then pay-per-views, like the big pay-per-views, they would have like these huge shows with major, like, tens of thousands of people would listen live at that point. So they asked me to come and start doing the pay-per-view recaps. So this is what I was doing for a couple of years, like a year or so. And then they come to me and they go, listen, we're going to have to make a change. We're going to have to start charging for some content because it's very expensive. And I was like, okay, how does that work? Again, I don't know about Patreon. I'm really green about all this stuff. And I was like, well, do you think anybody will sign up? I'm like, well, we hope so. And then like right away, they get like over 700 or 800 people to sign up for Patreon.
That's crazy.
And it's like, a lot of people doing more than $5. And the numbers for the show were like a download, like 30,000, 40,000. And I remember I got into an argument with somebody about something and they were like, oh, you think you're hot shit because your show does like 2 million downloads or something like that. And I was like, no, it doesn't. And then I asked Mish, the guy, and he was like, yeah, like 1.5 million. And I'm like, so wait, 1.5 million times a year people listen to this fucking shit? Like, I blows my mind. As a guy trying to get 30 people to a club, dude.
No, for sure. Believe me. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir there.
and then, like, because my name is John Draper on there,
where did that name come from?
That's an easy thing. So I do the Shitbox, and they call me John. And Kevin's brother. It was like, hey, Kevin Castle's brother, John.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I'm not fucking Johnny Castle, so I'm not going by that. So they were like, yeah, you can't use your real name because there's a lot of weird people and it's like a
Oh,
global
okay,
audience.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to it was something to do with John Hamm because John Hamm is Don Draper
Okay.
and John Hamm is a Jon and I'm a Jon. We're not
I thought
Jonathans.
so.
It's not,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was a play on the fact that Don Draper sounds like John Draper and John Hamm is a Jon. And whereas he has a huge penis, I
Yeah.
act like a huge penis.
Notoriously huge penis. That's...
He's a legendary coxman.
Yeah,
He's like
he
my
is.
idol.
Yeah.
Legendary coxman. I mean, like, you couldn't have a better, like,
Yeah,
and we're the same age. It's very, like, except for the fact that I have a face like a foot, we have a lot of parallel things going on there. We're the same
right.
age.
Isn't it unfair, like, to just look like that and then have a huge dick? Like, you should have either
Yeah.
or.
I used to watch Mad Men with multiple ex-partners,
Oh.
and they all would just look at him with the same look, watch the TV, and I was like, this motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, you weren't looking at
bitch.
Christina Hendricks?
I was always looking at Christina Hendricks,
All right.
always. January Jones could suck it. So that's what that came from. But then, like, it got very weird. Like, I would get I would just talk like a person on there, and I would tell music stories and, you know, stories about when I'm hosting corporate events, which is a thing I did for a while, like in the interim of, like, between opening the store and going to the podcast, I was a corporate host for my corporations that I work for. So I would have these huge parties, and we would raise money for, like, Leukemia Lymphoma Society, like the night.
Are we going to get to the Zach Braff right now?
Yeah, that's where the Zach Braff story comes in, which actually is also a Nick Lachey. So in 7 hours, I almost fought Zach Braff, Big Pussy, and Nick Lachey.
Oh, Zach
So
Braff is
in
definitely
7
a
hours.
pussy.
In 7 hours. So, but people would, like, start hitting me up on personal things, like, oh, I heard what you said about something, and, like, it would be weird. Like, people would get, like, divorced, or they would find out they had cancer, or they would, like, hit me up, and I would just, like, have, like, regular conversations with them. So I was building a lot of loyalty with the fans, like, a lot of loyalty. And then I would get into, like, you know, we would get into fights with other shows because our show was very irreverent, and we weren't trying to get jobs at WWE. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get on WWE television, you know? So I'll say what I want. I'll insult people. I don't give a fuck. And then we found out a lot of other wrestlers were listening. And then we found out Andrew Yang was a fan, believe it or not.
Oh.
We used to would listen to the podcast. So it was like, we had this great fan base. But, like, this year in particular with COVID, and there was, like, a story that broke in wrestling, didn't really get a lot of national attention. There was a lot of, like, sexual abuse going on in the UK with women. And we did a whole show about it. And at the end of that show, I, like, looked at my wife. I was like, I don't think I want to talk about this shit anymore. Like, there was something about it. Like, I was already thinking of doing a comedy show. I wanted to talk about anything but wrestling. But there was something about this particular story that really bothered me. Like,
were you guys, like,
know.
spinning it in a comic way?
No, we weren't. No, we were, like, in tears on the air. Like,
okay.
It's probably one of the most downloaded programs we've ever did. People asked me about it. I did a UK podcast in the afternoon, and they said they actually replayed it with a whole roundtable of people from the UK because they couldn't believe that we were doing this. They just couldn't believe it. Like, we were reading women's stories, like, from the UK, who were, like, underage women who were molested by wrestlers.
Wow.
And promoters.
What the fuck was that?
13 years old, 16, 15, some men were molested. And and Joey and Mish, the guys who run the show, I was on the phone with Joey at that night or the next night. And we were just almost like, I was sitting on my back steps. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. I was like, I just don't really like this culture. And the wrestling culture got very, like, in a rush to become very social justice-y. And, you know, it's like, you would say, like, a woman sucks. Yeah, it was just the worst. Like, that creeped in so deep. And we were fighting with other podcasts.
Yeah,
and it was
that's where the fun leaves usually.
The fun was going,
yeah.
You know, but the listenership was solid. And I remember asking one of them, hey, what if we just did a comedy show? Just stop talking about wrestling. And one of them turned around and said, well, there goes 75% of the audience.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because again, I'm not the numbers guy. I'm not a part of the business side of it. I'm a glorified third party. So, like, I didn't have to buy the equipment. I didn't have to pay for the host network.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's easy.
You were that. You know. Yeah. You were what I wanted to be. I was just like, like anytime somebody asks me to do like a show with them or whatever, I'm like, yeah, just you have to do everything. I'll talk because I already do
Yeah.
everything for this.
Yeah. And I never had that responsibility. And I actually think there was some stress from that too, because here I am trying to change a format of a show I don't really own, that I didn't build for the 6 years that these guys had the show prior to me. And I just make dick jokes. You know what I mean? Like I don't really like, and I think maybe I overstepped my cachet with these people, which is not the first time I've done this. But all I really wanted to do was do the show. I got offers to do shows like 100 times. Like people would offer me money to go do other shows or start a show. And I was like, no, I'm happy doing wrestling too, because I love Mission Joey. Like I don't want to do this with anybody else.
Yeah.
But the reality was I didn't want to talk about wrestling all the time. Like me and Mish would talk about comics on the Patreon shows, and it was like the highlight of my week. You know what I mean? I was like, we're going to talk about Moon Knight or True Detective or something. It's like, this is what I really want to do.
You see that when it comes to podcasting, the same thing with this show. Once again, If I Ruled the World, shout out to George, moved to Vegas, finally dropping a new episode with Paul Bearer.
I saw that
this week. But with me for Red River, what makes it work for me is that I'm not we're not talking about one specific thing. We'll talk to you, and then we'll talk about Dazed and Confused, and then we'll talk like everything that we like.
Halloween. Yeah, I listened to the Halloween episode.
Yeah, so it's there's nothing. It's like this total potpourri. Like we're not really. I can't do something where we're specifically talking about one thing. So I get it. Like you want to just like what you do with Break the Apocalypse, which is your show now. I feel like you guys throw around a lot of topics, and it's pretty free form.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, and a part of me really wanted to drive the boat. Like I had a life jacket on, and I sat in the back, and I don't know how to drive the boat. So that was my role, and I was very comfortable in that role, and I was good in that role, and we would do personal appearances. I went to Chicago to do a personal appearance. And there was like 30,
let me
people.
Find out you're famous doing personal appearances in Chicago. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, because the show is like we did a midnight WrestleMania podcast, and like 70 people showed up for it at the back of Lucky 13, and we wrapped it up because I wanted to drink, and I had a lot of friends there because I'm not in Brooklyn that much, and I go to take a leak, and I come back, and there's a queue of people. And I go to Joey and I go, what's the line for? He goes, to take pictures with us. And I'm like, in Lucky 13, I have to, people have seen me take pictures with fans and signing things. And it's amazing. It was just like, Chicago was great. We were going to do it again, but then COVID and all this other stuff. We were going to have a big party. We rented a theater in Tampa for the 10th anniversary show.
A long way from signing things at Denny's. That's all I know.
Well, but that's the thing. And it's like, I could have, but, I probably could have just shut my mouth and even wrote off this thing. They called it speaking out, this thing about the rapes. And, I probably could have gotten past it. Yeah. But at the time, I had other friends that I met in podcasts. And I said, listen, I want to do a weekly show where I talk about my penis and cocaine and tell stories. Like, I just want to tell stories.
That's it.
And they were like, yeah, let's do that.
So who are these, your two co-hosts?
So Shaheen he's a graphic designer. He's done most of the graphics for tons of like indie wrestling and wrestling companies, and for Wrestling Soup, called Nuclear Heat Graphics.
Does he do yours, right?
Yeah, he does ours. Yeah,
because
he's amazing. He
it's
does everything.
So great. Like the cartoon
he's
cover.
Amazing.
It's fucking awesome.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, and look at that asset now. I got this amazing young dude who's like my good friend, one of my closest friends, who happens to be a graphic designer who actually engineers the podcast.
Yeah.
And Brian produces the podcast. Brian had B-Show Brian, he had a wrestling podcast. He has a horror podcast. He's a horror nut. He's a horror enthusiast. So it's like, and like Shaheen, immigrated here from Iran, moved to Philly. He's got an amazing life story. Brian is like a financial guy with young kids. Like we have all, like they're checking off all these boxes for me in life. Like, you know what I mean? And they were the reason why I was able to go do this. Like I didn't really trust a lot of the other people. Not that I trust them. I didn't know that they would have been able to let me run with this the way that they let me run with this. And they were like, yeah, run with it, And I was like, all right, but you got to do it with me. And they're like, okay, just, let us talk every now and then.
For sure. Yeah. And, I mean, I guess you guys trust each other enough because, once the funny thing about podcasting and like the stuff that you guys do, is just like me, like I'm loose at the lips because the way I talk in real life is sometimes the way I talk on a podcast, and for better or for worse, it just seems like such a weird climate to do it now because people take everything so serious, like.
They do.
It's
They
just,
do.
We're joking.
It's only a matter of time before I get in trouble for the show. Like I've gotten in trouble with Soup. We've gotten in a lot of trouble before. It's inevitable. I've been called a Nazi. I've been called a libtard. I've been called a MAGA hat wearer. I've been called a Bernie bro. I've been called
everything.
a dirty. I've been called a dirty Jew. I've been called like I'm not even kidding. This is just like on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like so, it's the way it is. You know what I mean? It's part of the gig. You're not going to have a global audience and 2 million downloads and think everybody thinks you're cool.
You're right.
Not how it works.
You're right, because the bigger the audience, the bigger that net of people, man. I'm telling you, on a smaller scale, I posted something on the Red River Podcast Instagram that got like, 6,700 likes.
Jesus Christ!
I know when like when I post about an episode, it gets like 20 likes, and I was like, why did this thing fucking like take off? And it was like I said, I was talking about William Zabka, and I said that it was awesome to see him finally get his due in Cobra Kai, because every movie this guy's been in, somebody steals his girlfriend. Whether it's like Back to School or whatever the fuck. And the only time he ended up with the girl is when he ended up with the ugly Audrey in European Vacation, right?
Yes, the busted Audrey.
I thought that was funny, and I'm like sitting there, and it's getting all these likes. And then, of course, the more likes I get, someone's like, yo, that's not cool, man. That Audrey was sick. She had this. She's dead. And I'm thinking like, I don't know. Like, I'm not. Did I kill her? I'm like, I'm just trying to make a joke. And like, the more likes it got, like, because it reached more people, that eventually you're gonna get like a handful of people like, hey man, that's not funny. And it's like, oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we run into that a lot. Like I had made a joke about Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte, who was getting like plastic surgery so much, and I can't remember. It wasn't even that great of a joke. But it was like this like gay rights group hit me up, and I was just like, what does this have to do with you?
Yeah,
like, I don't even understand. Like you're mad that I made fun of a woman she had boobs. She kept getting these crazy boob jobs. And like, if you see pictures of her, she looks like a completely different person. I think I said they literally look like they cut this bitch's head off and put a new bitch on her head or something like something like that. And they were like, who raised you to call women bitches?
Yeah.
And then my favorite would be smaller podcasts or even big podcasts, virtue signaling, being like, no men should ever talk about women.
Oh.
And I'm like, you clearly raped somebody in college.
Yeah,
honestly,
you clearly did. What are you?
That's what I said.
What are you running
I don't
from?
know. I said, I can't wait until whoever you assaulted in college comes forward in a couple of years. I really can't wait. Because that's my thing. I feel like if you project that, and I get really, to be perfectly honest with you, my big issue with this is with a lot of people in the hardcore scene now who I know very differently, who are projecting themselves in social media now in their 40s and 50s as very different people.
Yeah.
Very different. And unless you have a time machine, or you're going to hypnotize me and forgetting about some of the things that I know about, maybe you shouldn't get on a soapbox about trans rights. Maybe you're not the best guy to do that. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know. Call me crazy.
Always,
I don't,
always touchy. But you know what? In the flip side and the devil's advocate to that is sometimes people do kind of evolve into like a different opinion. But
absolutely. And I'm one of those people. I'm sitting here in a cardigan getting ready to pick up my teenagers from fucking work. That was not. I was banging 20-year-olds in Detroit. 10 years ago. At my 40,
telling gay people to act more hetero.
Yeah, telling one of those celebrated songwriters of a generation to not be gay.
Yeah,
which I never really said that, but like I kind of intimated that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about an evolution that's obvious in the way you carry yourself.
Yeah.
I'm talking about we really need to look out for create safe spaces at hardcore shows. And I'm like, there aren't any because you were killing everybody at the shows. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's just like, I don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like this.
Listen,
it's really getting on my nerves. Like, and it's like I fight the urge to spew about it because it's just not worth it ultimately. But
I
I'm not taking I don't take morality lessons from people that are devoid of morality. I don't do that.
no,
You
yeah, for
know,
sure. And like
if
I sometimes I like when I read certain people who are like my age, I'm thinking like, yo, unless you're like 15, like what kumbaya planet do you think you're gonna live on? I'm like certain things
yeah.
that you're like it's just never going to be that way. So
No,
stop.
it's not. And these people know that. But I think in my case, it's not just hardcore people. It's people I grew up with. It's people in the podcasting world. It's people that even some people I was in bands with. They're pushing a worldview that's popular to get them attention. They're not pushing it because they want that to be the worldview. And I also honestly think for a lot of men, this is a way of them of distancing themselves from things they did that they live in fear of every day. And the reality is, I tell everybody about my shit. So good, come after me. I have nothing. I did everybody. I admit everything I've done. It's terrible. I don't live in a world where I excused the worst things I've ever done were really just cheating on people since I was like 10. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like that's shitty. As you get older, you have marriages, you break up
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
marriages. That's awful. That's
I know.
not good things. That you don't. I'm not proselytizing about how great that is. But like when I see people that I know carry themselves or have a life behind them of shitty behavior, now scolding people on the internet for politics or worldviews or dissenting opinions, and I'm like, when did you get religion? Like, I don't like, did you absolve yourself of all your sins? Like, and that's the thing too. I don't talk about dating that much. I don't talk about relationship advice that much because I'm a terrible person to give that advice.
Yeah, yeah.
So I check myself, like, and I just wish more people would do that, especially when they talk about things that I know firsthand that they are being dishonest about.
Well, these are the things that you could hear on Break the App and more.
Yes, break the apocalypse.
John will give you all this stuff and more. So yeah, Break the Apocalypse, just like this show on a bunch of streaming sites.
It's everywhere. Yeah, you could download it for free everywhere. The full shows are only available on Patreon.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
We
You
give
have
you
a
about an
Patreon.
hour and change. It's like a 2.5 hour show. You get half the show for free every Friday. And then we move on to completely different topics on the Patreon show. It's topical. We talk a lot about music, movies. I think we're going to do a big thing about Halloween. Well, Shaheen was actually at the riots in Philly.
Oh wow.
So we're going to talk about fun at the riots.
Okay.
How to riot, the joys of rioting, I think we're calling that episode.
Yeah.
Last week, a guy pulled a gun on him in a MAGA hat in a deli, a guy with a Confederate flag. So we called the episode, Does This Confederate Flag Make My Ass Look Fat?
What? Why did he do that?
Because Shaheen is a little bit of a thuggy guy. He's a tough kid,
Sure.
And he sees a Confederate flag, he'll start some shit.
Yeah. Especially in
because
Philly.
he doesn't, because he moved here from Iran.
Yeah.
And dealt with a lot of racism after 9/11 and being called a terrorist most of his life by people. And now he considers himself a good citizen, and he doesn't appreciate people having Confederate flags in the back of their trucks at the Wawa. And when he said something to the guy flashed the gun at him. And the first thing I said to him was, had you got shot, this really would have helped the show.
Yeah. Yeah, the downloads would have been crazy.
I said, I'm not saying I wanted you to get shot, but I said something there. I was like, I'm wishing you may have got shot just because I could have done interviews and it would have really helped. It would have helped the downloads. That's all I'm saying. I was like, next time, take a bullet.
Well, just like one of those like Schwarzenegger type bullets that only like graze your arm.
Yeah, he's a wild dude, man. But like I said, he opened my eyes to a younger culture, like what it's like to move here from, a country that we have issues with pretty much my whole life, Iran.
I love hearing those stories from. I
love them. Like when he talks about growing up, and
yeah.
He talked about the first time he saw titties was in Coming to America, and they only saw black titties.
I heard that episode.
It's amazing. I was like, but it's just I love, and like even Brian's a lot younger too, and Brian's like a little bit more of a square Midwest guy. But it's like, I'm going to be 50 years old. Like the fact that these two guys find me interesting, it blows my mind. Like, dude, you should have seen the fan base for these meet and greets. It was all young 20-somethings, like hip, cool, young hip hop dude, like chill dudes. It was like dudes that looked like they would like way cooler guys. And like the biggest compliment I get is somebody half my age telling me, is like, dude, like, I don't know anybody your age that talks like you. I don't know anybody your age that acts like you. And like we actually even had an episode on the show where I told Shaheen and Brian I possibly could be their father because I was at banging status when they were born. I was
Oh
banging
yeah, for
shit,
sure. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
I say
Yeah,
that.
so, but that's
I say that all the time because like I was like 13.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, but it's like that's the fact that I was so like even the wrestling soup fan base, man. Like I jumped in their chat by accident today on Discord, and people are like Draper, oh my god, Draper, and it's like these are like cool. These are not like some fat guys in a basement. These are like young, cool. A lot of these guys are. I met some of their spouses. Like they brought their wives, and they have good-looking wives. I'm like, they're like good-looking young guys who this is. They have no one to nerd out with. Like they have nobody to like where we were reinforcing wrestling being cool for them because none of their friends really like it. So it was like, and even the guys I talked to in the UK today in Yorkshire, they were like, yeah, we go to the pub and we'll just sit around and talk about wrestling. Because because we don't really like sports. And I'm like, looking at these guys, like one of these guys, like a really good looking young guy. I'm just like, really? This is what you do at the pub?
They talk about Lord Alfred Hayes or some shit.
No, they like, but they like a lot of, what's very hipster, and this is something that'll blow your mind, but indie wrestling is a very hipster audience. Like indie wrestling, like the way indie rock is, that's the way indie wrestling is. So you're just thinking that WWE shit.
To me, like my relationship with it, my evolution just came from wrestling, but then like once UFC started, it just seemed like a progression to me where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna.
That's what I did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
I was a big UFC guy.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna watch these guys be, and like I get it, and I get the appeal and all that other stuff, but it's I have fond memories. I was a huge fan, and but I kind of moved on from it, and so it's funny to like see. I know a lot of dudes that fucking still love it, and good for them.
Oh, sure, so do I.
But yeah, man. In closing, I just want to say, what are the chances that 2021 reunion happens?
Well, before I do that, I want to give you the Zach Braff story real quick.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I know you want to hear that story.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, are you familiar with the band? Are you familiar with the band Wheatus?
Yeah.
Okay, so Wheatus are from Long Island, right?
Yep.
So a bunch of years ago, Barclays buys Lehman Brothers, whatever, and I had hosted some fundraisers for Lehman, but they were small. So they want to make a good impression on Barclays. So they were like, "Hey, can you do this like big fundraiser for us?" Now, mind you, I'm like almost 300 pounds at this point. And I'm smoking like a dragon, and they have me do this amazing fundraiser that I write the whole thing. They give me a budget, and the people at Barclays love it. So they're like, "Hey, we want you to do bigger fundraisers now at the corporate level." And as the time went on, I would do bigger ones in front of bigger groups and more departments. Somewhere along the line, somebody goes, "Hey, do you know the song Teenage Dirtbag?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I know that song. That was a big song." And they're like, "Yeah, do you know the guy who wrote that? He works here." And I was like, "No, he doesn't." I was like, "No, I'm sure he doesn't." Like, no, he was in the band. He wrote that song with his brother. His brother's the singer. So I was like, hold on, let me do the research. So I look it up, and the drummer at that time was a guy named Pete Brown.
Yep.
So I was like, why does that name sound familiar? Well, Pete Brown was a guy I worked with at Barclays who we knew each other, but we didn't know that about each other. And then we sort of discovered that we both had a lot in common, only his career was way more significant than mine. And Pete, his brother, was the singer of Wheatus. They started the band together. He left after the second album, got a job, got married, and went into finance. So he becomes one of my closest friends. And he's to this day, he's still one of my closest friends. And they did a reunion a couple of years ago with Pete, and I was there right in the front because he always made me promise, if I ever play drums again, you have to be there. He goes, because I talk about you to my brother all the time. He was like, you were somebody I can't believe our paths never crossed. Like you and me, I never believe our paths crossed.
Yeah, for sure.
So in the interim of doing all this, I become like the corporate fundraiser guy. Like I am the guy. Like that's almost my full-time job. I'm doing voiceover work for Barclays. I do an iPad commercial for them in the UK with my, I would, like you have system host, like if you're going to learn a new system at a job, you have a tutorial.
Yeah. You're that
guy.
I
did the tutorial. I was that guy.
You're the hologram.
And I would use the escape button to move on to the next round. Like that was me. Because they got me on the cheap and they had me sign like releases saying that I couldn't get residual money because they were paying me a salary to work there. So I was in the studio at Lehman, had a studio, and Barclays had a studio in Midtown. And I was writing jokes for the senior vice presidents and making videos, like those in-house videos that are supposed to be funny for fundraisers. I wrote all those. So we're doing this huge one at a place called the New York Beer Company in Midtown. And it's probably still there. It's enormous. We rented the whole fucking place out, right? So I got a team of like 30 people I put this together with. I'm the host of this goddamn thing. There's going to be like 700 people at this fucking thing, like 500 people at this thing. And the heads of the heads are going to be there. So we get there at like 2 o'clock to set up for like a 6 o'clock start. That's how long this is going to take. And about 4:30, they're still letting people into the bar to drink and eat. And I'm like, we're starting at 5. Why are they letting people in here at 4:30? Well, the person they let in was Nick Lachey with a whole bunch of people, the actor, whatever, singer, 98 Degrees guy.
Singer, yeah.
You know who that is, right? Yeah, he was banging Jessica Simpson, which was the best thing that guy had ever been in his life, was that body. But so long story short, the Barclays people go to me and go, hey, can you talk to the owner and see like why they're doing this? So I get the manager, it's a guy, and he goes, yeah, Nick lives around here. We got to let him in. And I go, okay, but we're doing a cancer fundraiser here that we rented this place, like, you know.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to leave at 5 o'clock. And the guy was like, well, I don't know if I could do that. I go, well, if you don't tell him to leave at 5 o'clock, I'm going to tell him to leave at 5 o'clock because I don't even, like, I can't even believe we're having this conversation. So like, I'm not like a tough guy, but in that world, I'm a tough guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
I'm not a tough guy in hardcore or like, but in Barclays and Lehman Brothers, I'm a tough guy because there's no tough guys there. So I have to do the tough guy shit. So it's like 5:15 and we're starting at like 6, I think. But we told people they can come at 5:30 and now it's getting crowded. And he's got this giant table with all these broads. So 2 of the girls that work there go over to him, ask him for pictures. And then they go, can you please leave? We're having a cancer fundraiser. He goes, how can I help with the cancer fundraiser? And the girl goes, well, you could help if you clear this table, like, you know. So, but he doesn't want to leave. Like they're having like dinner or whatever. So I'm mad now. So then I go back to the guy. I go, the window is closing of me not going over there. And I guarantee you, if I go over there, he's going to leave. I go, no matter what, he's going to leave. So now the manager of the place is mad at me, goes to one of the head of the company that I work for. And they're like, throw him the fuck out. They're like, John, go throw him out. Because they're like, this is a cancer. We shouldn't have to ask a celebrity to leave a cancer benefit. So the last thing I say to the manager is, I want you to go tell Nick Lachey that in 5 minutes, we're going to call the New York Post and we're going to say Nick Lachey refused to leave a Leukemia Lymphoma Society benefit because he was having dinner, even though we rented the place out.
Yeah.
And I go, so tell me what the guy goes there and begs him off. So now they're leaving and he's mad. And I'm the only like guy in this thing. There's all women except for the man. So he starts pointing at me and making like these weird gestures. So I walk right over to him. He's very short. And I go, yeah, that was me. I'm the one that said you had to leave. I'm the one. And he goes, oh, so you're the tough guy. I go, no, I'm not a tough guy. I just want to know why you think you're more important than a cancer benefit, man. Oof. I go, do you want like E-News? I go, is that what you want? Do you want us to call TMZ? Because we'll call them. I was like, it'll take 2 seconds. I was like, we're just going to take pictures of you and say you refuse to leave our cancer benefit. And he was like, well, I was leaving until this guy opened his mouth. And now like he's like, people are getting in between us. And now the heads of Barclays are showing up to this.
Oh, that's so fun.
And I think I'm going to get fired, right? And instead of getting fired, they thought I was amazing. They were like, that was the greatest thing I ever saw in my life.
Yeah.
They were like, good for him. Now, as he walked out, he apologized to the girls and goes, I apologize to that guy. I shouldn't have done that. But he was getting a bit aggressive. And they were like, well, we had asked him, the company asked him to do that because you weren't listening. So he leaves, everything's great.
I just picture you locking the door and telling him that now you can't leave.
We're in the doorway, and I go, I have my phone in my hand. I go, why don't we just call TMZ and we'll say that you're too good to leave the cancer benefit? Why don't we tell them that? And then he starts saying, like, my mother has cancer or somebody had cancer. Like, you think I don't care about cancer? Like, he's barking at me. And he's a short guy, but he's a good-looking guy. Like, he looks like he's in shape. He's a good-looking guy. He looks like a famous person, but he's short.
Little devil.
Okay, so anyway, so now as everybody's showing up, they're like, did you hear Scondotto almost fought Nick Lachey? That was the whole, and we have like hundreds of people there. The head of the Leukemia Lymphoma Society of New York is there. She's a lovely woman. I'm sweating to death. I got to host this trivia night. I got to be on. Like, I got to be like Robin Williams, like 83 Coke Robin Williams when I host these things.
Nice.
It's just like giving away prizes. It doesn't stop. Hours go by. I always lose my voice at the end of the night. So we end up raising a record amount. The firm's going to double it. The head of the firms are there. Everybody's happy. Now it's the after party there. So Bullets over Broadway is a Woody Allen movie that's now a play on Broadway, and it
Yep.
stars Zach Braff and Big Pussy from The
Yep.
Sopranos. I forget his name. Vincent Pastore.
Yep.
So this is close to where the theater is. This is where they go and hang out every night. So what most people don't know about corporate fundraisers, and they're usually on a Monday or they're usually on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but seldom a Thursday because people won't show up to work the next day. So that's why, because people are drunk and hanging out all night. So this is a Thursday, I believe. And now these guys, Big Pussy shows up with Zach Braff. It's like 10:30. The party's long over, but we're in the glory. I'm basking in my glory. I've sweat like 5 outfits through at this point. And, my friend Steve, a young cat from Jersey, goes, "Hey, did you see that's Big Pussy over there playing pool?" And this is, by the way, this is 2014. I was like, "Yeah, And he was like, "Yo, I'm going to go ask him to take a picture. You think I should?" And I go, "Well, I don't see why not. I mean, it's not like a lot of people around." There wasn't a lot of people. It's a big place, but it's half empty. It's late. People left. Nobody's bothering anybody. So he goes over I see him have the conversation, and Steve walks away, and he's almost like in tears. And I go, "What's up, man?" He goes, "Dude, he was so mean to me." I go, "Well, what do you mean he's mean to you?" He was like, "No, he just was like really rough." I go, "Hey, like I'm an Italian guy from Jersey. I love the show. I would love to get a picture of you I could send to my dad."
Sure.
And he was like, nah, not doing it like that. So I was like, you know what? Fuck these people. Because I'm already mad at celebrities, right? So I'm like, you know what? Fuck all these people. Fuck that shit. So I'm a little drunk. And by the way, I just was like the king of the universe this night, so I feeling myself a little bit. So I go over, I go, "Hey, I don't want to bother you, man." I was like, "But the kid came over here. He's a nice kid. He's a good kid. We just had a big fundraiser here for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. My name's John. We're from Barclays Bank. We just raised like a ton of money here. The kid's here all night. But yeah, just take a picture with the kid. What's the big deal?" And he's like, "Come here, I want to tell you something." And he's eating wings. He goes, "When I say no, it means no. You understand what I'm saying to you?" And I go, "Okay, now you're being a little rude." Like, you know what I mean? I was like, "It's a picture." He goes, "If I take one with your friend, what am I going to tell everybody else?" I go, "No offense, I don't see anybody else asking you for a picture."
Yeah.
And that's when he got angry with me. And I go, "Listen, I'm not trying to be a dick or nothing, but he's a kid. He never meets anybody. He's from fucking the middle of Jersey. He isn't, this is a big deal for him. You know what I mean? He wants to get a picture of his father." He was like, "I don't know why I keep saying no and you keep asking me like that." So out of nowhere, Zach Braff, who I didn't recognize, comes in between us with a pool stick and goes, "What do you think you're doing?" Like that. And I go, "What am I doing?" "I'm not doing anything. I'm talking to this guy." He goes, "Why, we got a problem over here or something?" And I start laughing because I'm like, is Zach Braff starting some shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
shit.
and Zach Braff's a big guy.
I love Scrubs.
So, but I've never seen Scrubs and I've never seen any of his movies. I just know he's an actor. I go, so right away I go, "Zach, nobody's doing nothing wrong here, man. But you coming over here like you want to do some shit." And he was like, "Well, you're the one fucking coming to my friend." I go, "First of all, I'm not being rude to your friend. Your friend was rude to my friend." And I go, "Look, we were here for a fundraiser. You can ask the owner. This is like, we're from the bank. We've been here all night. I've been here since 2:00. The kid asked for an autograph." And he goes, "So why do you get to come over here and bother him once he says no?" I go, "Because I thought maybe if I asked nicely, he would do it." And he goes, "But you're still standing here." I was like, "All right, now you're getting on my nerves." So now people are getting in between me and Zach Braff. So I was like, "Listen, I don't give a fuck." I was like, I think I said something about Garden State under my breath, but I don't remember. I was like, "Yo, if Garden State wants to flex, I don't give a fuck." Like, I don't, because now everybody's watching. So it's like, I got to follow through with this, So people get in between us. And then Vincent Pastore was like, "Listen, I don't want to take the picture. It's not personal. Kid, come here. He calls Steve and goes, "I'm sorry. I don't want to take the picture. All right. I'm sorry. I don't want to take the picture. All right. But I'm not trying to be rude to you. I'm not trying to be a bad guy here." And I go, "Yeah, Zach, nobody's trying to be a bad guy here. Why did you come over here with the pool stick?" And he goes, "I'm playing pool. That's why I have a pool stick." And it's like, we're arguing like two guys who are going to fight. And then I was like, "Zach, the kid's not getting the picture. You guys aren't, whatever." I was like, "Let's just fucking leave the shit alone." And then Vincent Pastore goes, "Shake my hand." And he goes, "These are good guys. They're good guys." And then he goes to eat his wings. So Zach Braff looks really mad. So I go, "Hey, Zach." And he goes, "What?" I go, "Want to take a picture?" And he was like, "You fucking with me?" I go, "No, let's take a picture." And he goes, "All right, I'll take a picture." Like that, like fucking with me. And I have the picture somewhere.
Oh,
it's in my Facebook.
My God.
And you can see he's mad.
I got to see
that. You can see he's angry. Like, he's angry. And then I was like, "I'm just fucking with you, Zach." He goes, "Yeah, well, I had to defend my friend." I go, "Yeah, but you're mad." I go, "Zach, you're mad at me for you're doing the same thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know that, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I don't know what you're saying when you walk over here. I don't know you guys."
You got to find that picture
and I'm
and
like,
send it to me.
Yeah, and you could see, but he takes the picture, and I'm like, and Steve was like, "Why do you get the picture after all of
Yeah.
this?" And Steve goes, "Do you know how much I love Garden State?" And I was just like, "Wow!" And then the next day at work, I'm not at work, and the whole offices are buzzing, going, "So Scondotto almost fought three celebrities,
Yes.
and it was the most incredible thing people had ever seen." But it was just such a strange set of circumstances.
My
And then somebody told them afterwards, "Go, that guy tried to beat up Nick Lachey earlier."
my friend Keith played drums in the band Aerotype 11 at the end.
Yeah, I played a show with them too.
Yeah, so like he was the drummer. He replaced the original drummer. So I think they might have he might have played the last year with them. And they did something called Farm Club. You remember Farm Club? Like
Yes,
Matt
I was on TV. Yeah,
Pinfield and maybe Ali Lart. I don't.
yeah.
So
I tried to get on that.
they were on the same time that 98 Degrees was on, and it's on YouTube. So it's funny. Like I don't know. He just told me some, like they were all kind of just at this table, and they were just like, holy shit. It was just like this mixture of this world, and I'm not gonna get into the story, but
I remember. I think Pete from Wheatus was at that thing, and he was just like, "You're fucking unbelievable." He goes, because I tried to get Pete to play drums in Lament.
Okay.
Because I was like, if I could get Pete to play drums in Lament, that'd be amazing. Like for the 2014 stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember he was like, he goes, "Wow." He goes, "If you're gonna beat up celebrities, what would you do if somebody said they didn't like the band?" And I'm like, "I don't beat people up, dude. These guys are just fucking idiots." Like, because they're just so used to like talking down to people and people walking away, you know.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "No, I'm not gonna walk away today. Today we're not walking away, Zach."
Nah.
But dude, he was down. I swear to God, I give him his props. He was ready to go. He was not fucking around. He was mad.
Nice. Yeah, hey, listen, not many people could say that. And I love, like, I'm such a I just Scrubs is one of my favorite shows, and
My daughter Violet loves Scrubs.
It's just great.
I you know, I looking back, I could have handled that a little better, but I was so still mad at Nick Lachey. And I was just like, what is with these celebrities tonight? Like, I can't
you know what,
take it
Nick
anymore.
Lachey, I feel like out of everyone, out of the three stories that you gave me, I feel like Nick deserved it more than Big Pussy.
He did. Well, Vincent
Zach.
Pastore was a little bit of a dick too. I mean, and he's an older guy, like, to be talking
like
shit like that.
Curmudgeon, he's like, I'm not gonna take a picture, and it's
he tried to give me the hi hat, like the Italian hi hat, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a wop from Brooklyn too, dude. Like, I know what the Italian hi hat looks like. I said no. What part don't you understand? I'm like, whoa, dude, like really, like whoa. Now we're getting disrespectful here. You know what I mean? And you have to remember too, I had everybody that was there was looking at me.
Yeah.
So I had to double down, like, you know what I mean? I already had such this great, crazy reputation there. And this just made me like an icon there.
No, that's it. Yeah, you couldn't. You had to go. You had to put the pedal. You had to put the pedal to the metal.
I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, dude. I was a little scared of Zach Braff because I was like, he's gonna hit me with this fucking stick. I'm like, he's gonna fucking he's gonna whack me in the face with a cue stick.
Yeah.
And like, I'm gonna have to fight Zach Braff, like fight him, like in public, and it was funny too. A few weeks prior to that, around that time, what's his face from Transformers? He's crazy, the kid actor. What the fuck's his name?
Oh, Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf was in one of the other venues we were using. He was the one he got arrested in for getting drunk and crazy and punching the guy. That was one of the other venues we were using. So the running joke was, oh, Scondotto probably would have fought Shia LaBeouf too. Like,
you know what? Yeah, I feel like he would have definitely obliged you on that one. Like,
he would have. No, I didn't want to fight anybody. It wasn't even like that. It was just like, I didn't know, like, who thinks they're gonna wake up and fight Nick Lachey, Vincent Pastore, and Zach Braff? I mean, like,
that's it. You were ready.
I was, but you know what, Sam? I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready to go. I was so drunk, I probably would have just fell right on the floor and like not woken up. But yeah, that was 20. That was one of the last things I hosted.
So that's fun because I know you said that you were like this game show host wannabe or wanted to be.
Yeah.
What were some of like your favorite game shows that?
My family watched Family Feud. That was a big deal.
Okay. Yeah.
My mom, I think, like Richard Dawson, and Wheel of Fortune, and then I remember like the reruns of the '70s ones on during the day because they just had nothing else to put on TV. So it was like Match Game, and it was like blank the refrigerator, and I'd always be like in my mind like fuck the refrigerator, like, you know what I mean, like password
blank
like,
doodle do.
blank a doodle do. You know what I mean? I was like,
uh,
yeah. So I used to watch that stuff, but
I loved all that stuff. I loved all the game
I did
shows.
too.
I love even now, like when I think of like the newer stuff, like I think Deal or No Deal. Like every time that
Mhm.
shit is on, like it catches me and I love it. I don't know what it. All you're doing is like Howie Mandel's asking these people to open up suitcases, and
Yeah,
it's like so tense, but it just really works.
it's a sweet gig.
It is
Like
a
I got to
sweet
tell
gig.
you, hosting like game show stuff, even like at the corporate level, like it's a sweet gig. It's just so fun. But you got to be on, like you're so on, like you have to keep it interesting for people
Yeah.
because people start like getting drunk and they're bored and they really don't want to be there. Some of them, and some of them are too drunk, and some of them are too bored, and some of them are like cheating on their wives. And it's just like you have to have a balance in there. Like I definitely offended a few people doing it sometimes. But I remember the people that ran it for the company were like, just go for it. Just keep doing it. And I
Yeah.
was like, Barclays is like an uppity British company. Like, yeah, just no, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing because it makes it so much more interesting. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep making fun of people. I was just like, and I wasn't saying sexist or racist things, but like I would like make fun of somebody's tie. Like, I was just like, and I'd be like, now you look like somebody, like there would be like a corporate stiff higher up person that would be like, now when I think of exciting people, I gravitate to you immediately. And it's the most boring person in the
Yeah.
room and everybody's laughing. And I was like, now you're somebody who I think I could learn a lot from on a Friday night. So let's go to this next category. Like that kind of thing. It was like tongue in cheek. It wasn't really meant to be like, so you look like a piece of shit. Let's see if you know something, Tubby. You know what I mean?
So I got my tongue up this chick's ass.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I did this when I was so fat. Like, I'll show you a picture of me. I'm like literally keeled over. Like, the buttons are popping off, but I'm in the zone. Like, my head is red. It got a lot easier when I wasn't fat. That was definitely
Everything is a
like
lot easier when you're not fat.
it is though. It is though, dude. It totally
I
is.
lost 30 pounds last year, and we played a 32 song Halloween set, and I was like, oh, I feel pretty good.
Wow. How'd that go on your voice?
Fine, because we played all, it's a Halloween set, so we played all covers, and
Okay.
everyone kind of just jumped on the mic for 32 songs.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Yeah. I've never done a show like that, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I've
it's
never even
so
like, there
much
was never
fun.
even I probably would like it. At this point, when I was in my 20s, I thought I would be living in Vegas doing Smith's covers for a living.
Never
I
too
was like,
late.
that was my goal. That
Never,
was my goal.
never too late.
No, it's still doable. I
Yeah.
just think, Morrissey's not really that popular with people, but the Smiths are. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do Smith's covers, and I can just do Smith's covers for a couple hundred people and make some money. And like, it's easy on the pipes because that's below my range, so I could
It
do that all
is, yeah,
night,
yeah.
if I really
So,
wanted to.
have you ever seen the tribute band Sons and Heirs?
I may have once. I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, I've been a fan of this for a long time. I feel like I was at something with my brother. Yeah, I would do it myself, but I don't want to see other people do it. It's just like, because then I'll be standing there judging it like, well, I could have done this better.
Oh,
You know what I
they're
mean?
really good. They play the
I know they're good.
they play the Bell House like every
I know.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, they had the singer from that do a different version of it at a thing I was at, and he was the singer of the Son and Heirs. Like
Okay.
they flew him in, or it was like a one-time special tribute thing after a Morrissey show.
Okay.
I was at that. I remember. I think I might have been at the Bell House or something like that.
Love the Bell House.
That's the one like near the Gowanus, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
yeah.
like
I've
it's
never
like
been there
in
a
the
long
middle
time.
of, it's like
Yeah, it's like in the middle of nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, like where hookers used to be, and
pretty much.
shit.
Yeah.
On Second Avenue down there. Yeah. Oh yeah, I lived down there. Not there, but I lived near there for sure. But yeah, you had asked me about the 2021 thing.
Yeah. In closing, like I know that we briefly touched on it, and I don't know if it was like a secret or.
No, it's not a secret. I just haven't really done much because of COVID about it.
I-
So my kids, my wife's children and my stepdaughters that I've been raising with her for years and years, and now they're getting into college and getting older. And between my tinnitus and my age, I would like to do like a show with my own material with stuff like that, which they never got to see, and like my wife never really got to see because we weren't together for like 25 years, and and a lot of those songs were really about her, and like I would like my children to see that. I would also like to do that before I get very old and it's not really that impactful for me, or like I won't be able to sing or hear or whatever. So my goal was in May for like my 50th birthday. I was like, well, I just want to play with Synthetic 16 and 5 Cent Hero and some other bands that I'm friends with and never do this again. Like that was my goal. And I said that last May, and half the band was like, yes, let's do that. but we thought maybe COVID would probably be over by now. So
Yeah.
we didn't know that COVID was here to stay, for a while. So that's in the back of my mind. And that's what I'd like to do. The album came out in like 2001. So it'd be like the 20th anniversary of Your Water. And I would really like to play those songs, for people at a time where I'm not drunk or fat or cheating or like a terrible human being. I would.
Does 5 Cent Hero, like, did you reach out to them by any chance?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were totally into it. Yeah. 100%.
Wow,
Like,
what a
cause I
trip.
said it with them in mind and they were like, yep. And like, they don't play either. The guys, some of them are in other bands. Some of them are, don't play at all. So the idea was that, yeah, we would absolutely do that in May.
What about the
And like,
synthetic guys? Do any of them play still or not?
well, Steve does the Last Stand with my brother Mike, but he's
Oh,
also
okay.
from Shutdown. So Shutdown's going to Europe. They were supposed to go this year. They'll go next year. They were supposed to do they were supposed to do Black and Blue Bowl, I think, this year.
Okay.
That's about it. Eric Gutman was on Broadway, and he has a one-man show. Like he's like this insane Broadway guy who has like this voice of an angel, but it's not a rock and roll voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he has a one-man show that just aired on PBS called From Broadway to Obscurity. He wants to
wow.
do it. Adam wants to do it. The people that didn't get back to me were the drummer Wayne and Pete Frigoletti. I can't find. I wanted to do it with I want to do it with everybody. I want to do it with like the 3 guitarists and everybody singing and, my cousin playing bass and Eric playing guitar instead of bass. Like I have a vision for it and half of them are on board. But, it's one of those things where it's like I could do it with other people and it would probably be fine. But not for me, it wouldn't be fine. Like the idea is that I would like to get on stage with these guys as the person I am now, since the person that I was, they clearly despised most of their adult life.
Yeah.
And I don't see why you would carry those grievances into your middle age. It seems like a silly thing for me, but it's not up to me, and I was talking to my brother Mike about this, and my brother Mike was like, fuck it, play with other people. Like, he was just like, play with whoever wants to play and then play with other people like everyone else does. And no one seems to have a problem with it. And I'm like, yeah, but I would have a problem with it. Like if I did it with like Adam and like, my cousin, and then it's like, well, Pete Frigoletti wrote a lot of these songs with me. He's not here. Steve wrote the other album. He's not here. Wayne, played drums on Tony Stark in every song. Like he's not here. Like that wouldn't really feel good to me. But
Yeah.
I'm also, to be perfectly honest with you, I will not be held hostage by other people. Like that's something when you're in a band, as it's one of the worst things. It's, and I know other people that are constantly held hostage by people in bands, and I swore that was not going to be me. Like I'm not going to be held hostage to other people. Like I'm just, if COVID clears up, which I don't think it will, but for a while, but if COVID clears up and we get a green light to do something and I make that attempt, that's the attempt. Like, I'm not going to beg you to do something that would be good for all of us.
No,
like that's beneath me. Like I'm not, that I will say, as unegotistical as I am today, which is I'm a very humbled person. Most of my life revolves around driving my children places and walking my dogs. I'm not gonna be humbled by somebody like who that I'm trying to do a good thing with, trying to do a good thing for, who's mad about something from 1997. I can't. I don't even understand how that would be normal. Like I'm not gonna live in that. Like if you're really still upset about something from 20 years ago, then you need help. But let's just celebrate this together and never do it again. You know what I mean?
No,
like
sure.
that was my thing.
I'm good at forgetting things. Like I'm 24 hours later, I'm just like, fuck it, who cares?
Well, that's what makes you a good musician too, because your art really relies on your relationship with other people. And one thing I've learned as an older person who's been sort of exiled from music in a lot of ways, but is that my relationships with those people were very bad because of me a lot of the time. So I own that as a 50-year-old man. I will own that, but I'm not going to live inside of it forever because that is ridiculous. Like, I don't see how that's healthy. If you were mad at me in 2002, I'm sorry. Can we play a show and maybe rehearse for a bunch of months and have a good time together as middle-aged adults with our children? Can we do that? No. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, you already know what's going on. Like you're in the know.
Sure.
For people who don't know, if that does happen, you are 1000% involved. My brother Mike is really pushing me to do this, but he's always been like that. My brother Mike, for me, like he's always like because he's like that. Like, Mike plays these shows, and like they probably be shows that I wouldn't want to play, but I also did very different music from him. Like he'll go play a show at Niagara and it's like packed to death, and like it's all, and that'll probably keep him high all week, like, you know what I mean, even at like 46 years old. Like, but I'm saying, like,
no,
I can't do that with Synthetic 16.
yeah, for sure. Mike is
Mike is
the real deal.
Yeah, he's the real thing. Like, Mike is at shows. Mike writes about shows. Mike supports bands. Mike buys shirts.
Yeah,
Mike buys albums. Mike, you released a record on Friday? Mike bought it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember somebody, I forget who it was. It was somebody paid him such a compliment to me. It was somebody big in music, and said, like, I love your brother's work. Like, I wish people in my band had your brother's work ethic. Like, I don't like. They were like, if your brother had 3 other people who felt that way about a band, like, your brother would be huge. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, but he's another one. He's probably been held hostage, in a lot of ways by circumstances too, because there's always somebody in a band, as you know, that holds up what you want to do, or doesn't really want to do this, or has a birthday party, or has a bris to go to, or something. And it's just like,
don't open that wound for me, please.
No, but people,
man,
like a lot of normies don't know that.
No, that's the life of a lot of us, and especially as you get older. I look at the clock, and like I told you, like, I didn't really start playing till I was like 27.
Oh, you were so close to not doing it. Oh,
so close. I almost escaped. Like, I was just like, I was a drug dealer, I was a criminal, I was like just all these things, and then one day I was like, I'm like, maybe I'll start a band, and we did.
Well, I could tell you without, for anyone who's never heard me say this about you, but many people have privately, like, you are someone who 100% I think embodies the kind of music I want to project to people, and the attitude I kind of want to project to people. Like, like, had you been doing what you were doing in 2000, and we played a show together, by the end of the week, you and I would have had 20 phone conversations. Like, it was like, even my brother Mike was like, you remind me a lot. And I don't want to say of me, because I was just despicable, but like, you remind me a lot of me and what too. But I'm just saying, like, you remind me so much of what I wanted to do musically. And the other thing is, you're extremely diverse in what you put out there. Not like you're learning cover songs that are kind of obscure, and you're dropping like low tier rap bands so people know about them. But at the same token, you're bumping that thing you do, acoustic version that you want. It's like you're all over the place.
I hit play, and if to me, like, if I hit play, I either like it or I don't like it. That's it. Right. Like, I'll listen to anything.
Now I have to tell you, you're getting a lot of good looks from the single that came from the video and stuff like that. Are you guys happy with?
Yeah. Like, the EP is doing great. The whole thing came out Friday, and so it's.
You guys got to be happy with that, because I'm seeing a lot of love there, and I'm just like, wow, that's awesome. Because I never was in it. I never put a record out with the internet being so accessible, so I don't know what that's like,
Believe me,
I never got to do that.
This is new to us too. Like, it wasn't until like 2018 where I was like, let me take a hold of, like, like, I maybe, we were just lazy. We would just put records out, and it's like, whatever. Like, whoever finds it, finds it. But it wasn't until like 2018 where I was just like, I'm like, let me open up an Instagram. Let me do this. Let me just.
Dude, it's great stuff. And I genuinely really mean it, because Lord knows I'm not big on the compliments. I mean, you don't see me out there going, look at this great thing that's not great that I'm going to say that's great. I don't do that. I never do that.
I appreciate it for sure, because like, we're definitely on the same side musically with a lot of things, and it's like
sure.
If you weren't in, would I say Buffalo? I know Albany.
My brother Mike pointed this out a couple of years ago. He goes, that's a guy who you should have done a band with, or if you were still here, you'd be playing music with all the time. I think, that would have been like what we did back in the day, because that's what you need to do. I think you need to play with other bands. You need to, I have nothing against treating your music like a glorified co-ed softball team. I really don't, or a bowling team, but make sure everybody knows they're on a bowling team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the one thing I would always tell people in bands. Like, if you have aspirations, make sure you're sharing those aspirations. Because if your bass player thinks that this is just something to do to get away from his wife 2 nights a week or something like that, that's all this is ever going to be. You know what I mean? Or if your guitar player just thinks this is, well, I didn't join bowling this semester, so I'm just going to do this instead.
Yeah.
But make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure that everybody knows that right from the beginning. This is what we're doing. The sky is the limit, and this is where the sky is.
Yeah,
so we're never gonna,
because in like 3-4 years, like we kind of realized we're like, you know what, we're never gonna tour.
Yeah.
We're gonna play local shows, and we're gonna make records, which we're gonna make a lot of, and we're gonna make visuals attached to these records, and then
in lieu of touring, lieu of right,
because of the internet like gets us to And then what I also realized in 2018, after we put out 10 songs, I was like, okay, the streams drop after 6. I'm like, we just wasted 10 songs. We're never going to put out 10 songs. Now we're going to do 4 or 5 at a time.
Singles, boom, go old school, drop singles.
Well, we were doing, we did 4 in October and like another 5, and we just started demoing yesterday 4 more.
Oh wow, when are those coming out?
Soon. So
Jesus,
we're gonna do
that's a big undertaking.
I mean,
that's a lot of studio time.
I have 16 songs written, so it's like just a matter.
Wow,
of
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, it was so funny. I think when we kicked this idea around, and I don't remember the specifics, but Adam, the rhythm guitar player, he's always ready to go. He lives in PA. He's 50 now, and he's ready to go. And I remember, I think he spoke to my cousin. I didn't even talk to my own cousin about this, about playing bass. And I think he spoke to my cousin, and my cousin said to him, I'll do it if it's just like one show, but I'm not like doing a tour or anything. And I wanted to be like, yo, like, you got to get that mindset. Like, you're still thinking like I'm that guy like 15 years ago. Like, I'm not asking you to like leave your families to go to, Sheboygan, like to play some bar. Like, I'm like, where are you? Yeah, like, where are you getting that from? Like, tour? Like, why? Why would there be a tour?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even... Like, dude, you're bugging. Like, and that's the thing. I think when you don't really want to do something, you start finding the excuses before you actually answer.
Absolutely.
Like, well, I'll do it, but I won't tour. And I'm like, motherfucker, nobody said you.
No one
you on
said
the road?
tour. Yeah, it's like, wait, we just want to do one show.
I couldn't imagine anything more sad than like doing like a Synthetic 16 tour. Like, it would be funny, like in a way. Like, I get it, like a couple of dates, but like a bunch of guys in their like late 40s with like teenage children, like. Touring, like, oh god, really?
Play Phoenix one more time.
Everybody's wearing glasses, and like nobody has dairy. It's just like, oh, I couldn't. Dude, it would be the set. Like, I would be so embarrassed for them to see me make like my kale shakes and my glasses. I just be like, oh, like God, like I would be making fun of myself right now.
Hold on, John's doing his morning yoga. We can't bother him.
Yeah, it's like John didn't do his 10 miles. We can't leave. We can't leave until John does his 10 miles. It's just like, oh my God. Like, I used to literally get in cars with girls, like I like not come back.
Yeah, not come back.
I got left 2 not states away, but I got left, I think the cab was $170 with me and the bass player from 5 Cent Hero. We picked up these girls in a pool hall in Michigan, but we were staying in like Ypsilanti, and this was like closer to Detroit. It was like 100 and something miles. It was like 60 miles from the hotel. And we were so fucked up, they left us there. And like these girls were like, "You guys got your own hotel rooms?" And we were like, "No, we just have rooms with the bands." And they're like, "See you later." And I was just like, so then we get in the cab, and the guy's not talking to us. And then when we get there, he's like, "It's 120." And I'm like, "Yo, it was $120? Like, where were we? Like, we were in like Ann Arbor or something." And I was just like, it was like, what the fuck is that? And he paid it. And I remember that he paid it. He was like, "No, you were there, help me out, I'll pay for it." And I was like, "Yo, you just spent like $150." Like, it's just like, we get like $30 a show selling like 2 t-shirts. But that's what I'm saying. Like, to go from that and then to be like, oh, like, I can't see the lyrics. I have to put my glasses on. And like somebody's wearing a back brace or something. It's like, oh my God.
Well,
I couldn't imagine it.
Hopefully everything goes well, and
yes.
Even if it's like later in the year, I would love it.
It might be. I mean,
I think it would just be like such a fun thing to do,
It would be. And you would most certainly be a part of it.
Yeah.
1000%. I mean, I have a vision for it. I have people that I'm waiting till the new year to even reach out to. And it would just be like literally like a day of seeing cool music, like with people that have a lot in common musically versus, it's like when you have a hardcore band or a punk band and you want people to see it in their squares, they don't want to go to that shit,
No, for sure,
and this is
yeah.
something like my grandmother, I don't have a grandmother. This is something like my mom, or like my in-laws can go to, or like, or something like that. And I would really want my kids to see this. Like
Oh,
I want
most importantly, for sure, yeah.
that's honestly, I want my kids to see it. I want my girls to see it because it's just like, I want them to know that like you could you could do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just in a way it's an ego thing because I do feel like I want to squash whatever memories people have of me that are bad with a really good show where I work really hard and I act like a human being, like a civilized normal man, and I don't leave to go do blow or like get a blowjob from somebody in a truck or something.
Yes.
And like
as fun as those two things are, it's just
which are great.
A different
which
life.
are great.
Different times.
Yeah, and if you're a 20-something and you don't have kids or wife,
by all means,
do the coke, get the BJs, experiment with whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it's so unbecoming of somebody I think my age to like try to pass that life off. It's so silly. It's just like I couldn't even imagine. Like I'm laughing, but like that was so important to me, and now it's like, ugh. Like I don't even want
let me
to do the show and go home. Like I don't even want to like. I'm gonna be like embarrassed or something. Like if I don't do a good job.
I'll pick up the phone in a second, but like in closing, I'm just gonna say, amazing life. Thank you for sharing it with us. It's going to be
and I appreciate it, man.
It's going to be one.
And I appreciate what you do musically, dude. Like I really am a fan.
Thank you.
My brothers are fans. It's funny, like all my brothers are so into it now. And I'm like,
Mark,
when I was doing this shit, you guys didn't like it when I was doing it.
Yeah, Mark, because Jerry put it up, and Mark, because I didn't really know Mark. I didn't really talk to Mark. And
well, yeah. He probably wasn't on your radar, I don't think.
No, but he's been super cool. Like anytime I post, he's just very supportive. So.
Well, he's the most famous one, so you're definitely you're lucked out. I'm like Tito to him. Yeah. Like, you ever see that Tribe Called Quest documentary where?
Yeah, of course.
Which I love. I've watched it 100 times. And anybody's who's in the band. And where Fife, God bless Fife. Oh, what a sweet man.
Yeah.
Where he's like, yo, like, don't talk to me like, like you want to play like you're Michael, but don't fucking talk to me like I'm Tito.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's, yeah, that's how I felt in a band a lot of times too. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to be Tito.
That was the
dynamic,
know what I mean?
Like,
man. Him and Q-Tip had that dynamic where like,
What a great documentary. I could watch that 100. That and the, I'm sure you've seen it, the national one.
Oh yeah, the brothers. Yeah.
Mistaken for Strangers. I was like bawling watching that. I swear to God, I was like in tears.
What a trip that one of the dudes like co-wrote the whole Taylor Swift record, the new one.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Good for him.
Like kind of weird. I mean, like whatever. I mean, at this point, you got nothing to prove. Like, hey, you know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, look, I got a lot of friends. I'm sure you do too, talking about how Miley Cyrus is so badass right now, and it's just like, yeah, she's kind of badass. Like, she's sings like a demon, and she's playing good covers, and she's kind of badass.
Listen,
I have no problem saying that.
That achy breaky money came in handy. Like it sparked her career.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It really was the Hannah Montana shit. But like, look at. She's never going to be remembered for that. Never. Like, she's never going to be remembered for that. No matter what in life, she's never going to be remembered for that.
And
she's going to be remembered for what she does.
Just say, so, yo, nice having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. And please check out Break the Apocalypse podcast. It's an irreverent comedy podcast. And if you can find Tony Stark songs, Synthetic 16 songs, Lament songs,
I'll do that.
Thank you.
I'll put some up. I wish they were on the digital so I can make a playlist.
I know, we'll get there. That's part of the goal for next year. That's definitely something me and my brother Mike were talking about. Like, maybe you could help us out with that a little bit too, going forward in the new year.
I would love
to. But I really appreciate the opportunity to tell these stories.